Hi, and welcome to Quadcast. I'm Lewis, and today I'm joined by Tim, a technical director here at AlphaQuad. Tim, it's lovely to have you on. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. For those listening, this is the first episode that we're going to be doing in this specific format. So we are recording these out of order. This is the third episode that I'll have recorded, but this will be the second or third episode that actually goes out. So this is just going to be a nice way for our listeners to get introduced to the format that we're going to be doing for the first lot of this series, and Tim's the first person that we'll be having on. So Tim, the first thing I wanted to ask you today, when did you join AlphaQuad?
It was December 2009, I think.
Long old time then. My follow-up to that is what is it about AlphaQuad that's made you want to stay for that long?
It's a very friendly place to work. Great variety of projects, different sizes of companies, different types of companies. It's small enough so that everybody knows what everybody's doing, and so you can always drop in with your experience into everybody else's projects. Everybody can hear what's going on. It's all quite collaborative. It's been family friendly, even before that was fashionable. And free parking.
that absolute plus, and many fridges and many biscuits and all kinds of perfect things that you could ever want. I've wondered, because of your role as director, technical director, and everything that you do, General AlphaQuad Superman, how has your role changed in your time at AlphaQuad? Because I imagine that you didn't come in straight as a director.
No, I started as a front-end developer.
Right.
So basically making people's designs appear on screen, effectively. So a designer would put stuff together in Photoshop, and I would make sure that the web pages reflected what they'd designed. So, which is still pretty much what I do, and is pretty much what I've been doing for a long, long time. Mainly because I enjoy it, but there's also it's changed in that I've got more responsibility for behind the scenes stuff now, and I've also picked up a lot of SEO knowledge on the way through, as well as especially recently picking up bits and bobs about PPC, so I can weigh in on discussions with a bit of knowledge behind stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I think something that's going to be quite unanimous amongst everybody's answers to that question is, the role might have changed over time, and it might be something that kind of started off as quite not necessarily easy, but the roles expand, and I think we all kind of support each other in that way where we can help each other out, which is something I've really valued in my time here as well. Have you always been like a front-end developer, or is that what you've always done prior to working at AlphaQuad?
I started off in digital, doing CD-ROMs and websites for various UK government and European Commission technology projects. So that was my first sort of digital job. But before that, I learnt how to do graphics and stuff like that while I was doing entertainment management at a students' union. So it was a bit of a change of direction.
A little bit, but I suppose that change in direction is really good, and look where it's led you to now.
Absolutely, yeah.
I asked you off mic, if you'd ever recorded a podcast before, and no was the overwhelming answer to that. So, are you excited about the Quadcast?
Yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, mainly to help me sleep, to be honest. But so I'm hoping to add this lot to my little library of things to listen to. But yeah, podcasting's a lot of fun, and you find a lot of good things out there, technical, non-technical. So I do listen to quite a lot. So it's good to be part of actually doing one.
Yeah, that's something that I've found really exciting about just setting this up in the first place. Is I might not necessarily want to listen to my voice as I'm going to sleep, but I mean, you can finally. I'm absolutely delighted for you. So when you're working on a new, I just want to start to get into some actual development topics here. So when you're working on a new development project, how do you balance the client expectations versus your own creative liberty?
I think most of our clients are pretty happy with having their content presented clearly on brand. They're not necessarily looking for massive amounts of novelty or creative flair. When that is required, I do tend to lean rather fairly heavily on experienced design specialists. I really try and recommend getting good photography done. That's one thing I do try and insist on, because that lifts any website. Bad imagery will kill anything. And I'm also a bit of a stickler when it comes to typography. Like, bad typography makes my eyes itch. It's just it just makes everything look slightly off. It's you can look at a page and think this isn't quite right, and it won't be immediately obvious what's wrong with it, but it can quite often just be the size of the type and the relationship they have to the rest of the design. It's a small thing, but it can, like the photography, just lift everything just that little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think from the very small amount of development work that I've helped you do, it's something that I've noted as well is just the general design of the actual page can really change it, regardless of whether it could just be as simple as changing a font. And that's not something that I'd ever even really thought of before my time at AlphaQuad. So to be able to have that knowledge now as well is really fun, and it's been really fun to be able to engage with even the smallest amount of development work that I have done and pick up some new skills.
Yeah, it's really interesting the way that just having small design decisions and layout decisions can totally change the way that a visitor to a website will read the page.
So just continuing on with development project questions, is there a development project that you've worked on that you've found to be really enjoyable or particularly challenging? Where do you stand?
I mean, most projects have their moments. I enjoy doing the little bit. It's really satisfying making something work well and doing it in an interesting way in the background. It might not necessarily be anything that stands out like a massive banner or piece of animation or anything like that, but just having something work cleanly, neatly, with a minimum amount of fuss in the background is very, very satisfying. So yeah, it's little bits of details which I generally enjoy, and every project will have something like that where you go, yes, I've made that work.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think regardless of whether it's development work or it could be PPC or SEO, I think that every project has its moments, as you say, where it's, yes, I've done it, that works perfectly, or the result that I wanted to see has happened. And I think it's something I've found about digital marketing and entering this sort of world of it is there is a lot of instant gratification that comes along with the things that you do. And there is also, like, a lot of the time you're playing the waiting game to see if things pick up the way that you hope that they do. And so it's interesting, that balance of, as I say, instant gratification versus playing the long game with these things. And I think a lot of that can come down to how familiar are you with the tools that you use. So with development work, are there any tools that you found to be particularly effective? Or are there just any that you generally prefer to use?
I've got an everyday set of tools which will be for coding. I use Visual Studio Code, which is despite being a Mac user, it's a Microsoft product. Does everything you need, minimum amount of fuss, and it just works, which is great. I've been a Firefox user for years, since they first kicked off, really, so that's my browser of choice, and I use the development version of that to help me put the code together, inspect what's there behind the scenes, find problems and all that sort of stuff. I'm not a massive fan of Chrome's dev tools. A lot of people do love them, but I find Firefox an awful lot easier to use, a lot clearer. And if I have to build graphics, I'll go for Affinity Designer, which is a nice little graphics package. It's got a fraction amount of functionality that Photoshop has. It's all you actually need to do most of the jobs that you come across, and it's about as close to Macromedia Fireworks as you can get, which was a proper old school tool. Absolutely brilliant what it did, but unfortunately got axed a few years ago when Macromedia changed hands. But yeah, Affinity's about as close to that experience as I can get, so that's really nice.
Very good. Because I'm not so familiar with development work, I hear all of these programs and I just think I use Google Chrome, and that's my weapon of choice,
Yeah.
which sounds quite pathetic in comparison.
I do try and encourage people to have a look at the Firefox, especially the developers version. There's lots of nice little bits of tooling on there, like being able to take screenshots of tiny bits of the screen, pick up code, tweak stuff around live just to see what it's going to look like, all sorts of bits and pieces. Swiping graphics wholesale from sites is also quite a nice one, but we obviously only do that on when we're picking up stuff from client sites when we're going to redevelop. So if I can go to the page and just take every graphic off there in one shot, which makes things an awful lot easier.
It definitely does. I found, taking assets from client websites, I found to be somewhat particularly taxing at times, especially if there's a large quantity of, say, images that we need to lift over from a live site to a development site. So
yeah, because quite often at the beginning of a project, you might not necessarily have access to their media library or even getting in via FTP to find this sort of stuff. So being able to do it quickly and simply from the front end is a good thing.
Well, next time that we've got a development project of that sort of scale, then I'm going to have to ask for some kind of Affinity demo just so I can learn how to use it properly, because I think that it would definitely be more of an asset to me to be able to learn how to use that than just copying and saving off of Chrome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So something that I think that we, as a company, that we're quite focused on at the minute is just making sure that our kind of name and our brand and that we're just getting out there a little bit more. And I think that the Quadcast is a really interesting way to be able to do that. Something that one of our colleagues has been doing is creating these company bios for all of us that include a couple of pictures and a very brief description. And Tim, yours, she's given you the name The Wine Whisperer. Now, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but I thought of this question the other day, and I need to ask this on mic just so it's there for the record. Tim, are you like a sommelier version of Cesar Millan?
That might be overstating it a bit, I think. I can generally make wine go where I want it to without many problems. I guess that's wine whispering. I mean, it kind of suggests that I can make bad wine do good things, but I'm not sure anybody can do that. The best you can probably do that is chuck it in a bolognese, maybe.
So I wonder what wine is your favourite, and if you were a wine, what would you be?
I reckon my favourite wine would be a Cahors Malbec, decent one of those. That'd be good from the middle of France. If I was a wine, I'd probably be a mid-price supermarket Shiraz. One from the bottom shelf from Chile. Nah, not bottom shelf. No, second from the top generally. I can only apologise for calling you a bottom shelf screw cap wine just now. Oh, there's nothing wrong with a screw cap. No. Tim, this brings me on to my final question of the day now. Something that I'm really interested in, especially being a digital marketing agency, I think a lot about marketing campaigns that exist outside of AlphaQuad that have been around for possibly decades, possibly weeks. So are there any campaigns that you can think of, as I say, totally unrelated to AlphaQuad, that you've been impressed by? And it could be anything from a film to a drinks brand or a holiday destination, or anywhere that you can, anything that you can really think of where you go, that was really good. It is going back quite a way, but I thought the old Boddington's adverts were excellent. The production was great. And it was basically taking a shot at loads of other advertising formats with like fashion brands and stuff like that. They were really nicely done, and just like showed up quite how pretentious a lot of these other types of adverts were. But yeah, I always remember those. They're really nice. Very good. I can't say I've ever seen the advert, but I will go and look it up. Go and have a look. The videos are on YouTube. They're very, very good. I will definitely have to go and have a look. I'll take that as a recommendation, and I thank you very much. Tim, that wraps us up for this today. Thank you so much for being our first proper guest outside of John, our managing director. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hope to have you back on again soon. Great, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks. Brilliant. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye. Cheers.